Hi guys, let's continue with part 3 of the 39th UPSC 2020 Prelims test series from Vision IAS. So the 51st question is: Black rain, a term sometimes seen in the news, refers to number A. Radioactive rain in the aftermath of the atomic bombing in Hiroshima. Number B. Sudden emergence of crude oil springs from oil wells. Number C. Formation of acid rain in the cities of India. Number D. Collection of soot on adjacent fields after stubble burning. So the correct answer is A. That is radioactive rain in the aftermath of the atomic bombing in Hiroshima. Recently, around the 75th anniversary of Hiroshima being struck by the first atomic bomb to be used in war, a district court in Japan recognized survivors of the post-explosion black rain who were outside a government-defined zone at the time of the event as atomic bomb survivors. What is black rain? An estimated 69% of the buildings in Hiroshima were destroyed by the atomic bomb. The debris and soot from this, mixed with the radioactive fallout from the bomb, rose high into the atmosphere in the form of a mushroom cloud. This material combined with the vapor in the atmosphere and came down as dark drops of liquid that has been called black rain. Black rain is full of highly radioactive material, and studies have shown that exposure to it can result in serious illness. The rain contaminated everything it came in contact with, and dead fish were reported floating in water bodies, and severely ill cattle were seen lying in the fields. Black rain has caused acute radiation symptoms (ARS) in many who were exposed to it, with reports of people suffering from nausea and diarrhea for weeks. The bomb dropped on Nagasaki was more powerful than the one dropped in Hiroshima, but it killed fewer people and its effects were confined in a smaller area but to its geographical position between hills. Okay, so its effects were confined to a smaller area due to its geographical position between hills. The blast in Nagasaki also did not produce firestorms due to the damaged area not producing enough fuel to trigger one. This meant that the material that make up black rain was less in Nagasaki when compared to Hiroshima, and consequently the rain was confined to a smaller area. Now let's come to question number 52. Consider the following statements with reference to the European Financial Stability Facility, that is EFSP. Statement 1. It is created as a temporary crisis resolution mechanism by the euro area member states to counter the debilitating effects. So, in order to counter the debilitating effects of COVID-19 on the region's economies. Number 2, it provides financial assistance to euro countries through the issuance of bonds and other capital market instruments. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is B. The correct answer is B, that is 2 only. The European Financial Stability Facility, that is EFSF, was created in 2010 as a temporary crisis resolution measure in the wake of the financial and sovereign debt crisis in the euro area. The mission of the EFSF is to safeguard the financial stability in Europe by providing financial assistance to countries of the euro area. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. The EFSF offered financial assistance to euro area countries in need in this context, provided so the EFSF offered financial assistance to euro area countries in need in this context, provided they committed to undertaking certain reforms aimed at preventing the recurrence of similar crises. This assistance was financed through the issuance of EFSF bonds and other capital market instruments. Hence, statement 2 is correct. The EFSF does not provide any further financial assistance as this task is now performed solely by the ESM. Nevertheless, the EFSF continues to operate in order to number 1 receive loan repayments from beneficiary countries, number 2 make interest and principal payments to holders of EFSF bonds, number 3 roll over outstanding EFSF bonds as the maturity of loans provided to Ireland, Portugal and Greece is longer than the maturity of bonds issued by the EFSF. Recently, the 27th member European Union has announced EU recovery deal to counter the debilitating effects of coronavirus on the region's economies. So, recently, the 27 member European Union has announced EU recovery deal to counter the debilitating effects of coronavirus on the region's economies. Instead of individual countries raising funds, this time around the EU as a whole will borrow money from the markets. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 53. Who among the following has the authority to extend the provisions of Part 9 of the Constitution relating to the Panchayats to the 5th schedule areas of a state? Number A, President. Number B, Governor of the state. Number C, Parliament. Number D, State Legislature. So the correct answer is C, that is Parliament. Article 243M of the Indian Constitution, while exempting the 5th schedule areas from Part 9 of the Constitution, provides that the Parliament may by law extend its provisions to the scheduled and tribal areas subject to such exceptions and modifications as may be specified in such law, and no such law shall be deemed to be an amendment to the Constitution. On the basis of the report of the Bhuria Committee submitted in 1995, the Parliament enacted the Panchayats Extension to Scheduled Areas Act 1996, that is PESA, PESA, to extend Part 9 of the Constitution with certain modifications and exceptions to the Scheduled 5 areas. At present, Scheduled 5 areas exist in 10 states like Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Orissa, Rajasthan and Telangana. The Ministry of Panchayati Raj is the nodal ministry for implementation of the provisions of PESA in the states. Now let's come to question number 54. Consider the following countries. Number 1, Bangladesh. Number 2, Papua New Guinea. Number 3, USA. Number 4, Canada. Number 5, China. Number 6, India. Which of the countries given above are members of Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, that is APEC? So the correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. The correct answer is 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is Papua New Guinea, USA, then Canada, and China. The Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, that is APEC, is an economic group of 21 members formed in 1989 with the primary goal of promoting free trade and sustainable development in the Pacific Rim economies. The creation of APEC was primarily in response to the increasing interdependence of Asia-Pacific economies. Also, the proliferation of regional economic blocs such as the European Union, that is EU, and the now defunct North American Free Trade Area, that is NAFTA, NAFTA, encouraged its formation. The founding members of APEC were Australia, Brunei, Canada, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and the US. Okay, so these are the countries, these are the founding members. Then, since its launch, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Mexico, Papua New Guinea, Chile, Peru, Russia, and Vietnam have joined its ranks. Hence, option C is the correct answer. APEC refers to its members as economies rather than as states due to the disputed status of Taiwan and Hong Kong. Functions of APEC. APEC engages in multiple micro causes like intellectual property rights and emergency preparedness, and has many subgroups that aim to advance policy and awareness. APEC has been fundamental in reducing tariffs, improving customs efficiency, and closing the gap between developing and developed economies. Now let's come to question number 55. In the context of international affairs, dual-use technology often seen in the news is related to number A. Renewable energy devices which can use both solar and wind energy to generate electricity. Number B. Use of binary codes to prevent cyber frauds. Number C. Technology used for both commercial and military purposes. Number D. Decoding of the double helix structure of DNA. So the correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is technology used for both commercial and military purposes. Okay, so in politics, diplomacy, and export control, dual use refers to technology that can be used for both peaceful and military aims. Hence, option C is the correct answer. The expensive technologies which would otherwise only benefit civilian commercial interests can also be used to serve military purposes when not otherwise engaged, such as the global positioning system. Now let's come to applications. Dual-use nuclear technology refers to the possibility of military use of civilian nuclear power technology. Rocket technology and intercontinental ballistic missiles. artificial intelligence for medical as well as military purposes. Example, HoloLens. The HoloLens 2. Smart lenses that allow consumers to experience augmented reality within the real world. The Integrated Visual Augmented System, that is IVAS. The IVAS would be used to train soldiers as well as field medics with battlefield experience within a virtual environment. Chlorine is a chemical agent found within several household items such as bleach and provides various benefits with its wide array of applications. However, it can also be used as a chemical weapon. The image intensifiers used in night vision goggles and the focal plane arrays found in surveillance satellites and thermal cameras have numerous civil applications, which include nature topography, medical imaging, firefighting, and population control of predator species. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 56. A developed and robust corporate bond market becomes all the more important to support the economic development of India. Which of the following are the advantages of a well-developed corporate bond market? Number one, it provides an alternative source of finance to meet the requirements of funds for long-term infrastructure projects. Number two, it can increase. Number two, it can decrease external sector vulnerability. Number three, it enables firms to manage their asset and liability profiles to reduce the risk of maturity. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is D. That is 1, 2, and 3. So all the three statements are correct. That is, it provides an alternative source of finance to meet the requirements of funds for long-term infrastructure projects. It can decrease external sector vulnerability, and it enables firms to manage their asset and liability profiles to reduce the risk of maturity. A corporate bond is a debt issued by a company in order for it to raise capital. An investor who buys a corporate bond is effectively lending money to the company in return for a series of interest payments, but these bonds may also actively trade on the secondary market. Corporate bonds are typically seen as somewhat riskier than government bonds, so they usually have higher interest rates to compensate for their additional risk. A well-developed corporate bond market supports economic development. It provides an alternative source of finance and supplements the banking system. So it supplements the banking system to meet the requirements of the corporate sector to raise funds for long-term investment for infrastructure. It is believed that this segment acts as a stable source of finance when the equity market is volatile, and also enables firms to tailor their asset and liability profiles to reduce the risk of maturity. It also helps in the diversification of risk in the system. In view of the huge investment required for the infrastructure sector, the presence of a well-developed corporate bond market assumes significance in India. With the declining role of development finance institutions, that is DFIs, a developed and robust corporate bond market becomes all the more important. The corporate bond market is likely to be more beneficial for business having longer-term cash flows, where investors may be wary of risk associated with equity and long-term financing from banks may not be easily available. In India, while the banks still command a sizable presence in the economy, the corporate sector is taking recourse to the overseas markets for raising equity, debt, and loans. An underdeveloped corporate bond market can encourage this trend, thereby increasing the external sector vulnerability. Therefore, a well-developed corporate bond would reduce external sector vulnerability. Hence, all the statements are correct. Now let's come to question number 57. Consider the following pairs with reference to various mechanisms adopted by animals to survive in harsh climatic conditions. Now, on the one side, we have the mechanism, on the other side, we have the animals. The first one is hibernation, bats. Number two, estivation, crocodiles. Number three, diapause, arthropods. Which of the pairs given above is or are correctly matched? So the correct answer is D. That is 1, 2, and 3. So all the pairs are correct. Hibernation. It is the type of winter sleep performed by the warm and cold-blooded animals. It is for the whole winter. The animals look out for the warmer place, their metabolic activity slow down, and it is the dormant stage. Hibernation helps in maintaining the body temperature and thus avoids from any internal body damage due to low temperatures. Examples we have bats, birds, mammals, insects, etc. Hence pair 1 is correctly matched. Now let's come to estivation. It is the type of summer sleep performed by cold-blooded animals. It is of shorter duration than hibernation. Animals search for the moist, shady, and cool place to sleep. Estivation helps in maintaining the body temperature by avoiding the excessive water loss and any internal body damage due to high temperatures. Examples include bees, snails, earthworms, salamanders, frogs, I've already said earthworms, then crocodiles, tortoise, etc. Hence, pair 2 is correctly matched. The next one we have diapause. It refers to the delay in development in response to regularly and recurring periods of adverse environmental conditions. Diapause is most often observed in all the life stages of arthropods, especially insects. Hence, pair 3 is correctly matched. Now let's come to question number 58. With reference to India's pharmaceutical sector, consider the following statements. Number 1. In terms of volume, India is the largest provider of generic medicines in the world. Number 2. 100%. Foreign direct investment, that is FDI, is allowed under the automatic route for greenfield pharmaceutical projects. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is C. That is both 1 and 2. So both the statements are correct. The Department of Pharmaceuticals (DOP) has recently notified the Production Linked Incentive, that is PLI scheme, to encourage domestic production of 41 active pharmaceutical ingredients, that is APIs, key starting materials, KSMs, and drug intermediaries, that is DIs. Statement 1 is correct. India is a prominent and rapidly growing presence in global pharmaceuticals. It is the largest provider of generic medicines globally, occupying a 20% share in global supply by volume, and also supplies 62% of global demand for vaccines. India ranks third worldwide. So India ranks third worldwide for production by volume and 10th by value. Statement 2 is correct. 100% FDI is allowed under the 100% FDI is allowed under the automatic route for greenfield pharma. 100% FDI is allowed in brownfield pharma, wherein 74% is allowed under the automatic route and thereafter through government approval route. The report of the Hathi Committee 1975 is an important landmark in the development of the Indian pharmaceutical industry. The Hathi Committee emphasized the achievement of self-sufficiency in medicines and of abundant availability at reasonable prices of essential medicines. India was self-reliant on APIs until the mid-1990s when liberalization in import restrictions led to a gradual influx of APIs from China. A cost-based price control system that existed until 2013 regulated the price of both APIs and formulations. Even though India now has a less stringent drug price control policy, the dependence in Chinese imports has been growing. The share of China in India's total import of APIs has increased from 61% in 2011 to 69% in 2019. Let's come to drug pricing policy in India. The approach to drug controls shifted from a cost-based to a market-based once since 2013. Now prices of formulations are fixed based on the price of top-selling brands. The new price control policy does not regulate the price of APIs. It regulates the prices of formulations of those APIs which figure in the National List of Essential Medicines, that is NLEM. Now let's come to question number 59. Consider the following pairs. We have on the one side island, on the other side we have water body. Number 1, Nathuna Island, we have South China Sea. Number 2, we have Tulagi Island, South Pacific Ocean. Then number 3, we have Vanilla Island, Mediterranean Sea. Which of the pairs given above are correctly matched? So the correct answer is B. That is 1 and 2 only. So Nathuna Island, it would be South China Sea, and Tulagi Island, it would be South Pacific Ocean. So recently, a Beijing-based company which has close ties to the Chinese Communist Party has secured exclusive development rights for the entire island of Tulagi and its surroundings. Now let's come to Tulagi Island. Tulagi is an island within the Solomons Islands, which are located in the South Pacific, directly between Australia and the US. Hence, pair 2 is correctly matched. It was the administrative seat from 1893 of the British Solomon Islands Protectorate until it was destroyed by the Japanese in 1942 during World War II. Recently, China has sparked a major maritime confrontation with Indonesia near the South China Sea, with dozens of Chinese fishing vessels along with a Coast Guard escort entering waters of the Natuna Islands, which are within Indonesia's exclusive economic zone but are also claimed by China. So, about Natuna Islands. The Natuna Regency is an archipelago of 272 islands located in the south part of the South China Sea in the Natuna Sea. Hence, Pier 1 is correctly matched. It is part of the larger Tadja archipelago of the southwest coast of Borneo. Administratively, the islands constitute a regency within the Rio Islands province of Indonesia. Now let's come to Vanilla Islands. It is located in southwestern Indian Ocean, hence Pier 3 is not correctly matched. It is an affiliation of the island nations Seychelles, Madagascar, Reunion, Mauritius, Comoros, Mayotte in the Indian Ocean to form a new travel destination. Aim of the Vanilla Island that has been founded in 2010 to pool forces and jointly market the region compared to the sole individual marketing of each island in the past. Now let's come to question number 60. Consider the following statements with reference to consumer protection, that is e-commerce rules 2020. Statement 1. These are applicable to electronic retailers registered in India and abroad offering goods and services to Indian customers. Number 2. The rules require the mandatory display of country of origin on products sold by e-commerce companies. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is C. That is both 1 and 2. Both the statements are correct. The Consumer Protection E-commerce rules 2020 complement the Consumer Protection Act 2019 with regards to the protection of consumers from unfair trade practices and other practices of e-commerce platforms. The new rules will be applicable to all electronic retailers, that is e-tailers, registered in India or abroad but offering goods and services to Indian consumers. According to the new rules, the e-commerce players will have to display the total price of goods and services offered for sale along with a breakup of other charges. They are also required to mention the expiry date of goods offered for sale and the country of origin of goods and services that are necessary for enabling the consumer to make an informed decision at the pre-purchase stage. Companies are also not allowed to manipulate the price of goods and services offered on their platforms to make unreasonable profit, discriminate between consumers, or make any arbitrary classification of consumers affecting their rights under the Act. The Consumer Protection Act 2019 has come into force from 20th July 2020. As provided in Section 10 of the Act, the Central Consumer Protection Authority, that is CCPA, has been established on 24th July 2020. CCPA will not only protect the rights of consumers purchasing goods and services, both online and offline, but also have the power to initiate class action against companies, including enforcing recalls, refunds, and returns. The violation of the rules will attract penal action under the Consumer Protection Act 2019. Hence, both the statements are correct. Now let's come to question number 61. The terms Kurinji, Mulai, and Marudam during the Sangam period referred to number A. Classification of type of land, number B. Officials of the state administration, number C. Verses from the Sangam literature, number D. Titles given to poets of the Sangam age. So the correct answer is A, that is classification of type of land. So Tolkapiam refers to the five-fold division of lands. Turinji, that is hilly tracts. Mulai, that is pastoral. Marudam, that is agricultural. Nedal, that is coastal. And Palai, that is desert. The people living in these five divisions had their respective chiefs' occupation as well as gods for worship. The first one is Kurinji. Chief deity was Murudan. Chief occupation are hunting and honey collection. Next we have Molai. Chief deity is Mayon, which is Vishnu, and chief occupation are cattle rearing and dealing with dairy products. Next is Marudam. Chief deity is Indra and chief occupation is agriculture. Next we have Nedal. Chief deity is Varunan and chief occupation are fishing and salt manufacturing. Last we have Palai. Chief deity is Koravai and chief occupation is robbery. Hence option A is the correct answer. Now let's come to question number 62. With reference to the recently released State of India's Birds 2020 report, consider the following statements. Number 1, it aims to measure abundance as well as the range of various bird species of India. Number 2, it is released by BirdLife International. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is A, that is one only. So only the first statement is correct. So the correct answer is statement 1 only, that is it aims to measure abundance as well as the range of various bird species of India. The State of India's Birds 2020 report. The first comprehensive assessment of range, abundance and conservation status of birds in India has underlined concerns about some bird species and good news about a few others. Released during CMS COP13, the international conference held recently in Gandhinagar. The report was prepared as a partnership among 10 organizations, including the World Wildlife Fund, Wildlife Institute of India, and Nature Biodiversity Authority, India. Much of its data is based on citizen science, that is information provided by bird watchers through various platforms. The number of bird species whose status was assessed. The assessment is based on 3 indices, that is long-term trained in abundance over 25 plus years, the current annual trained in abundance, that is last 5 years, and distribution range size. Hence statement 1 is correct and statement 2 is not correct. The national bird since 1963, the species finds itself under the highest level of legal protection placed in Scheduled 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 and further amendments. Peafowl is spread across plains and hills of India except in extremely dry or wet regions. The report finds that the abundance trend is that of a general increase, both long term and currently. Now let's come to question number 63. Women writers made a tremendous contribution to religious movements. So they made a tremendous contribution to religious movements in the medieval period. In this context, which of the following pairs are correctly matched? On the one side, we have poetess, on the other side, we have associated language. Number 1, Lal Ded, it would be Gujarat. Number 2, Meera by Hindi. Number 3, Akka Mahadevi, it would be Kannada. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is C. That is 2 and 3 only. So 2 and 3 pairs are correct. Women poets since played a significant role in the Bhakti movement at large. Many of these women had to struggle for acceptance within the largely male dominated movement. Only through demonstrations of their utter devotion to the divine, their outstanding poetry, and stubborn insistence of their spiritual equality with their contemporaries were these women reluctantly acknowledged and accepted within their ranks. Their struggle tests to the strength of patriarchal values within both societies and within religious and social movements attempting to pave the way for more egalitarian access to the divine. Women bhaktas wrote of the obstacles of home, family tensions, the absent husband, meaningless household chores, and restrictions of married life, including their status as married women. In many cases, they rejected traditional women's roles and societal norms by leaving husbands and homes altogether, choosing to become wandering bhaktas. In some instances, they found communities with other poet saints. Their new focus was utter devotion and worship for their divine husbands. The Alvar women poets, that is Tamil poet saints like Andal and other, gave expression to their love for the divine. Lal Ded 1320 to 1384, the Muslim poetess from Kashmir, represented the Sant tradition of Bhakti and wrote Vaks, that is maxims, which are peerless gems of spiritual experience. Mirabai in Gujarati, Rajasthani, and Hindi. She wrote in 3 languages. Avayar in Tamil and Akka Mahadevi in Kannada are well known for their sheer lyrical intensity and concentrated emotional appeal. Their writings speak to us about the social conditions prevailing at that time and the position of women at home and in society. They all wrote small lyrics or poems of devotional fervor, metaphysical depth, and with a spirit of dedication and utmost sincerity. Behind their mysticism and metaphysics is a divine madness. They turned every wound inflicted by life into a poem. Hence, pairs 2 and 3 are correctly matched, and 1 is not correctly matched. Now let's come to question number 64. The terms bumble, honey, and bee seen in news are number A, new varieties of bees found in the Western Ghats, number B, robots sent to the space, number C, humanoids recently developed by India, number D, cryptocurrencies launched by different countries. So the correct answer is B, that is robots sent to the space. Recently, on June 14, 2019, a robot named Bumble became the first Astro B robot to fly under its own power in space. Bumble and a second Astro B called Honey launched to the space station in April. A third robot named Queen launched in July. Hence option B is the correct answer. Now let's come to Astro B robots. So Astro B is a free-flying robot system that will help researchers test new technologies in zero gravity and perform routine work alongside astronauts aboard the International Space Station. It will help astronauts reduce the time they spend on routine duties, leaving them to focus more on the things that only humans can do. Working autonomously or via remote control by astronauts, flight controllers, or researchers on the ground, the robots are designed to complete tasks such as taking inventory, documenting experiments conducted by astronauts with their built-in cameras or working together to move cargo throughout the station. In addition, the system serves as a research platform that can be outfitted and programmed to carry out experiments in microgravity, helping us to learn more about how robots can benefit astronauts in space. The Astro B system consists of three cupped shaped. So it consists of three cup shaped robots. Software. Astro B system consists of three cup-shaped robots, software, and a docking station used for recharging. Astro B's navigation system uses a camera to observe the robot's surroundings and compares what the camera sees to a map of the space station's interior. Astro B robots can move in any direction and turn on any axis in space. The robots can fly solo, going about their business independently, or they can be managed by astronauts or flight controllers. Equipped with cameras and microphone and other sensors, they provide flying eyes and ears that will allow flight controllers to remotely monitor conditions and remotely perform work on the station from the ground. Now let's come to question number 64. In the context of modern Indian history, consider the following statements with reference to Plan Balkan. Number 1. It was proposed by Mountbatten after the failure of the Cabinet Mission Plan. Number 2. It envisaged the transfer of power to separate Indian provinces or to a confederation. Number 3. Under it, the princely states had the option of joining any of the British provinces but could not remain separate. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is C. That is 1 and 2 only. So the correct answer is C. That is 1 and 2 only. Between March and May of 1947, Mountbatten decided that the Cabinet Mission Plan had become untenable and formulated an alternative plan referred to as the Plan Balkan. This plan envisaged the transfer of power to separate provinces or to a confederation if formed before the transfer, with Bengal and Punjab given the option to vote for partition of their provinces. The various units thus formed along with the princely states rendered independent by lapse of paramountcy would have the option of joining India or Pakistan or remaining separate. Jawaharlal Nehru strongly objected to it. He made it clear that Congress would not accept the breakup of the Indian Union and the transfer of sovereignty to the provinces. Any plan should start with the union and opting out of certain areas rather than a number of sovereign units coming together if so desired. To jettison the basic conception of India and denude the Constituent Assembly of its significance was to yield to the League and ignore the views of all other sections of opinion in India, the inevitable consequences would be to invite the Balkanization of India, provoke civil conflict, and add to violence and disorder, ensure a further breakdown of the central authority, and demoralize the army, the police, and the civil service. Mountbatten consequently abandoned the Plan Balkan and started on a fresh plan by asking his advisers to recast the whole plan to meet Nehru's main objection. Hence, only statements 1 and 2 are correct. Now, let's come to question number 66. Which of the following is or are correct regarding Diwan Velu Thampi's revolt in the early 19th century? Number 1. Velu Thampi called for taking up arms against the British to oust them from the native soil. Number 2. The Maharaja of Travancore supported the rebellion against the British until the end. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is A. That is one only. The East India Company's harsh conditions imposed on the state of Travancore after both of them agreed to a subsidiary alliance arrangement under Wellesley in 1805 caused deep resentment in the region. The ruler was not able to pay the subsidy and fell in arrears. The British resident of Travancore was meddling in the internal affairs of the state. The high-handed attitude of the company compelled Prime Minister Ordalawa Velu Thampi to race against the company, assisted by the Nair troops. Velu Thampi addressed a gathering in Kundara, openly calling for taking up arms against the British to oust them from the native soil. This was later known as the Kundara Proclamation. There was a large-scale rebellion against the British as a result. A large military operation had to be undertaken to restore peace. Hence, statement 1 is correct. The Maharaja of Travancore had not wholly supported the rebellion and defected to the side of the company. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. Velu Thampi killed himself to avoid capture. The rebellion petered out. Now let's come to question number 67. Which of the following is or are correct with reference to the special liquidity scheme for non-banking financial companies, that is NBFCs, and housing finance companies, that is HFCs, recently launched by the government? Number 1. RBI will provide funds for the scheme by subscribing to government guaranteed special securities. Number 2. All NBFCs registered as core investment companies are eligible to raise funds under the scheme. Number 3. The financing can be used by the NBFCs or HFCs only to repay existing liabilities and not to expand assets. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is C. That is 1 and 3 only. So statements 1 and 3 are correct. With a view to improving the liquidity position of non-banking financial companies, that is NBFCs, as well as housing finance companies, that is HFCs, the government launched a special liquidity scheme of rupees 30,000 crore. The scheme was launched on July 1, 2020 through a special purpose vehicle in the form of SLS Trust set up by RBI Capital Markets Limited, SBI CAP. RBI will provide funds for the scheme by subscribing to government guaranteed special securities issued by the trust. So the RBI will provide funds for the scheme by subscribing to government guaranteed special securities issued by the trust. The total amount of such securities issued outstanding shall not exceed rupees 30,000 crores at any point in time. The Government of India will provide an unconditional and irrevocable guarantee to the special securities issued by the trust. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Statement 2 is not correct. Any NBFC, including microfinance institutions registered with RBI under the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934, excluding those registered as core investment companies, and any HFCs registered with the National Housing Bank and HB under the National Housing Bank Act 1987, which is complying with the following broad conditions, will be eligible to raise funding from the said facility. Number 1, compliance with RBI regulations on capital adequacy. Number 2, net NPA is less than 6% as on 31st March 2019. Net profit in at least one of the two preceding financial years. Next, we have rating as investment grade by a rating agency. Next, we have is not reported under SMA1 or SMA2 category by any bank for their borrowing during the period 1 year prior to 1st August 2018. The scheme will remain open for 3 months for making subscriptions by the trust. The period of lending, CPs or NCDs of NBFCs or HFCs for short duration of up to 90 days by the trust shall be for a period of up to 90 days. The financing would be used by the NBFCs or HFCs only to repay existing liabilities and not to expand assets. Hence, statement 3 is correct. So statement 1 and 3 are correct. Next, we have question number 68. Consider the following. Number 1, unrefined petroleum waste. Number 2, slaughterhouse waste. Number 3, lead. Number 4, styrofoam products. Which of the types of waste given above are non-biodegradable waste? So the correct answer is A. The correct answer is A, that is 1, 3, 4. So 1, 3, 4. They are non-biodegradable waste, that is unrefined petroleum waste, lead, and styrofoam products. Non-biodegradable waste. These are waste which cannot be degraded or broken down through microbial activities is called non-biodegradable waste. Slaughterhouse residues are the result of abattoir operation in which solid and liquid waste as well as wastewater are generated in larger amounts. The principal components of the organic matter presented in abattoir effluents are feces, gut contains fat and blood. They are considered as the renewable natural resources which can be utilized for producing biogas, fertilizer, animal feed, etc. Such waste includes crude petroleum, plastic, styrofoam, products, cans, glasses, polymers, synthetic pesticides, bioactive fallout, some industrial effluents, and metals like lead. So these are non-biodegradable. These are the examples of non-biodegradable. Then let's come to biodegradable waste. It can be commonly found in municipal solid waste as green waste, food waste, paper waste, and biodegradable plastics. Other biodegradable waste include human waste, manure, sewage, and slaughterhouse waste. Hence, option A is correct. Now let's come to question number 69. With reference to Electronic Vaccine Intelligence Network EVIN, consider the following statement. Number 1, it aims to provide real-time information on vaccine stocks and flows across all cold chain points in the country. Number 2, it is being implemented under the National Health Mission, that is NHM. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is C. That is, both the statements are correct. So both statement 1 and 2 are correct. It aims to provide real-time information on vaccine stocks and flows across all cold chain points in the country. Number 2, it is being implemented under the National Health Mission. So recently, to support the government of India's efforts to combat COVID-19, EVIN India is helping the state or union territory governments monitor the supply chain of COVID response material. Both statements 1 and 2 are correct. The Electronic Vaccine Intelligence Network EVIN is an innovative technological solution aimed at strengthening immunization supply chain systems across the country. This is being implemented under the National Health Mission, that is NHM, by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. EVIN aims to provide real-time information on vaccine stocks and flows and storage temperatures across all cold chain points in the country. This robust system has been used with the requisite customization during the COVID pandemic for ensuring the continuation of the essential immunization services and protecting our children and pregnant mothers against vaccine preventable diseases. The Electronic Vaccine Intelligence Network has helped create a big data architecture that generates actionable analytics and encouraging encouraging data-driven decision making and consumption based planning that helps in maintaining optimum stocks of vaccines, leading to cost savings. Vaccine availability at all times has increased to 99% in most health centers. Now let's come to question number 70. That is, which of the following are the advantages for funds transfer through National Electronic Funds Transfer, that is NEFT? Statement 1. No charges to savings bank account customers for online NEFT transactions. Number 2, round the clock availability on all days of the year. Number 3, penal interest provision for the delay in credit or return of transactions. Number 4, outbound remittance transfer to an individual in any country. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is A. That is all the statements 1, 2 and 3 are correct. So 1, 2 and 3 are correct. National Electronic Funds Transfer and EFT is a nationwide centralized payment system owned and operated by the Reserve Bank of India, that is RBI. NEFT offers the following advantages for funds transfer or receipt: round the clock availability on all days of the year. So number 2 is correct. Near real-time funds transfer to the beneficiary account and settlement in a secure manner. Pan-India coverage through a large network of branches of all types of banks. Positive confirmation to the remitter by SMS or email on credit to the beneficiary account. Penal interest provision for the delay in credit or return of transactions. So point 3 or statement 3 is correct. No levy of charges by RBI from banks. No charges to savings bank account customers for online NEFT transactions. So statement 1 is correct. Besides funds transfer, an EFT system can be used for a variety of transactions, including the payment of credit card dues to the card issuing banks, payment of loan EMI, inward foreign exchange remittances, etc. Available for one-way funds transfers from India to Nepal. The outbound remittances through an EFT system are permitted only to Nepal under Indo-Nepal remittance. Hence, option A is correct. So, statement 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Now, let's come to question number 71. She was the first female graduate of Bengal and the first woman to address a session of the Indian National Congress. Which of the following female leaders of the nationalist movement is being referred to in the passage given above? Number A, Anandibai Joshi. Number B, Sarojini Naidu. Number C, Kadambini Ganguly. Number D, we have Bina Das. The correct answer is C. So the correct answer is C, that is Kadambini Ganguly. In 1890, Kadambini Ganguly, the first women graduate of Calcutta University, addressed a Congress session. This was symbolic of the fact that India's struggle for freedom would raise Indian women from the degraded position to which they had been reduced for the past centuries. Hence, option C is the correct answer. Anandibai Joshi was the first Indian female physician alongside Kadambini Ganguly. She was the first woman from the erstwhile Bombay Presidency of India to study and graduate with a 2-year degree in Western medicine in the United States. Next, we have Sarojini Naidu, political activist and poet. Naidu's work as a poet earned her the sobriquet Nightingale of India by Mahatma Gandhi. She was called Bharat Kokila by Rabindranath Tagore. She was appointed the President of the Indian National Congress in 1925, first Indian woman to be appointed as President, and later became the Governor of the United Provinces in 1947, becoming the first woman to hold the office of Governor in the Dominion of India. Next, we have Beena Das. She was an Indian revolutionary and nationalist from West Bengal. She was a member of Chhatri Sinha. Uh, so she was a member of Chhatri Sangha, a semi-revolutionary organization for women in Kolkata. On 6 February 1932, she attempted to assassinate the Bengal governor Stanley Jackson in the Convocation Hall of the University of Calcutta. After her early release in 1939, Das joined the Congress Party. In 1942, she participated in the Quit India movement and was imprisoned again from 1942 to 45. From 1946 to 47, she was a member of the Bengal Provincial Legislative Assembly, and from 1947 to 51 of the West Bengal Legislative Assembly. Now let's come to next question, that is question number 72. Which of the following is or are correct with reference to the policy of masterly inactivity by John Lawrence? Statement 1. It was a reaction to the British setback after the First Afghan War. Number 2. It insisted on non-interference by the British in the internal affairs of Afghanistan. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is C. That is 1 and 2. Both the statements are correct. The First Afghan War 1892 to 42. The British intention was to establish a permanent barrier against schemes of aggression from the northwest, that is Russia, and English army entered triumphantly into Kabul in August 1839 after a successful attack. Most of the tribes had already been won over by bribes. Dost Muhammad surrendered in 1840 and Shah Shuja was made the Emir of Afghanistan. But Shah Shuja was unacceptable to the Afghans. As soon as the British withdrew, the Afghans rose in rebellion, killing the garrison commander in Kabul. The British was compelled to sign a treaty in 1841 with the Afghan chiefs by which they agreed to evacuate Afghanistan and restore Dost Muhammad. Under a new expedition, the British reoccupied Kabul in September 1842, but having learned their lesson well, they arrived at a settlement with Dost Muhammad by which the British evacuated from Kabul and recognized him as the independent ruler of Afghanistan. John Lawrence 1864 to 1869 started a policy of masterly inactivity, which was a creation of the disaster of the First Afghan War and an outcome of practical common sense and intimate knowledge of the frontier problems and of Afghan passion for independence. Even when Dost Muhammad died in 1863, there was no interference in the War of Succession. Lawrence's policy rested on the fulfillment of two conditions. Number one, that the peace at the frontier was not disturbed. And number two, that no candidate in civil war sought foreign help, and as Sher Ali established himself on the throne, Lawrence tried to cultivate friendship with him. Hence, both the statements, that is, statement 1 and 2, are correct. Now let's come to question number 73. Loya Jirga, a term recently seen in the news, is number A, a traditional council of Pashtun people in Afghanistan. Number B, a sustainable method of organic farming practiced in northeast India. Number C, a harvest festival celebrated in the Sindh province in Pakistan. Number D, a process of rainwater harvesting practiced in West Asian countries. So the correct answer is A. So the correct answer is A. That is, it is a traditional council of Pashtun people in Afghanistan. A Loya Jirga or Grand Council in Pasto is a mass national gathering that brings together representatives with the various ethnic, religious, and tribal communities in Afghanistan. Hence, option A is the correct answer. The Loya Jirga is a centuries old institution that has been convened at times of national crisis or to settle national issues. Historically, it has been used to approve a new constitution, declare war, choose a new king, or to make sweeping social or political reforms. According to the Afghan constitution, a Loya Jirga is considered the highest expression of the Afghan people, but it is not an official decision making body. Its decisions are not legally binding, and any verdict it hands out must be approved by the two houses of the Afghan parliament and the president in order for it to be made official. Unofficially, however, the Loya Jirga's decision is seen as final, with the President and Parliament expected to respect the ruling. The most famous gathering took place in 1747 when Pashtun tribal leaders met in the city of Kandahar to elect a king. After 9 days of debate, they chose Ahmed Shah Durrani, the man who founded Afghanistan. In 2002, an emergency Loya Jirga was held after the overthrow of the Taliban. It elected Karzai as head of the transitional administration. So it elected Karzai as head of the transitional administration. It was the first time women took part in a Loya Jirga. Now let's come to next question number 74. Digital Economy Report has been recently released by which of the following organizations? Number A, World Economic Forum. Number B, World Bank. Number C, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. Number D, Economist Intelligence Unit. So the correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. UN Conference on Trade and Development, that is UNCTAD, has released its first ever Digital Economy Report 2019 that analyzes the world's digital economy. Hence, option C is the correct answer. The three main components of the digital economy, as stated in the DER 2019, include number 1, core aspects. Core aspects or foundational aspects of the digital economy comprises of fundamental innovations like semiconductors, processors, etc. Core technologies like computer, telecommunication devices, etc. and enabling infrastructure like internet and telecoms networks, etc. Number 2, we have digital and IT sectors. It includes key products or services that rely on core digital technologies, including digital platforms, mobile applications, and payment services. Number 3, digitizing. Uh, digitalizing sectors. So the third one is digitalizing sectors. It includes those products where Digital products and services are being increasingly used, example for e-commerce. So what are the key highlights of the report? US and China are the top world creators in the digital economy, whereas Africa and Latin American countries are lagging far behind. US and China account for 90% of the market capitalization value of the world's 70 largest digital platform companies. 75% of all blockchain technologies patents, 50% of global spending on Internet of Things, and more than 75% of the cloud computing. Global Internet Protocol, that is IP traffic, has grown from about 100 gigabytes GB per day in 1992 to more than 45,000 GB per second in 2017. By 2022, global IP traffic is projected to reach 150,700 GB per second. Estimates of the size of the digital economy range from 4.5% to 15.5% of the world's GDP, that is, gross domestic product. Regarding value added in the information and communications technology, that is ICT sector, the United States and China together account for almost 40% of the world's total. The ICT sector is the largest in Taiwan province of China, Ireland and Malaysia. The global computer services industry is dominated by the United States. India has the largest share among developing countries in the computer services industry. Also, India ranked fourth in terms of growth in the share of the ICT sector's value added in GDP between 2010 and 2017. In share of ICT services in total exports of services, top 20 countries. 2017. India ranked second, which is topped by Ireland. India is the largest developing country exporter of such services. 7 super platforms: Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Tencent, and Alibaba account for 2 by 3rd of the total market value of the top 70 platforms. Now let's come to the last question, that is question number 75. Consider the following statements with reference to Green Growth Equity Fund, that is GGEF. Statement 1. It was launched by National Investment and Infrastructure Fund in partnership with the Department of International Development, that is DFID, Government of UK. Number 2. Global Environment Facility, that is GEF, is the fund manager of the GGEF. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So, the correct answer is A. The correct answer is A, that is 1 only. The Green Growth Equity Fund GGEF is a joint UK-India fund specifically designed to promote sustainable energy projects. The fund, established in 2018, is focused in identifying, investing and supporting growth in zero carbon and low carbon energy solutions in the country. Green Growth Equity Fund GGEF, established with anchor investment from India's National Investment and Infrastructure Fund and IIF and the Department for International Development DFID, Government of UK. Hence statement 1 is correct. The fund is based in Mumbai, which is in India, and shall invest in scalable operating companies and platforms across renewable energy, energy efficiency, energy storage, e-mobility, resource conservation, and associated value chains. GGEF aims to raise GBP 500 million from international institutional investors to invest into areas such as renewable energy, clean transportation, water, sanitization or sanitation. So it's going to invest in clean transportation, water, sanitation, waste management, emerging technologies, and similar industries in India, which offer significant investment opportunities and potential for attractive returns. Eversource Capital and equal joint venture between Everstone Group and Lightsource BP was selected as the fund manager for GGEF. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. So that's all, guys. See you in my next video. Bye.